Hi there, my name is Joey O'Connor with the Grove Center for the Arts and Media, and thank you for joining us today for this Creative Funding for Artists grant recipient interview. I'm with SX Anderson. He also goes by Sean, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Sean today. He's got a really fun project I want you to learn about. He's got some great stories to tell, and Sean, it's a pleasure to have you today, and I'm so excited to hear more about your project, and I'm sure everybody who's listening is going to have a fun time hearing about it as well.
Well, I am very, very happy to be here as well, Joey. Thank you.
So Sean, tell us about your background. How did you get to where you currently are today?
Well, I have, that's a great question. I have a very diverse background. It's very interesting. That's been good and also challenging. Of course, I worked for a number of years, as you know, because we worked together at one time in ministry with high school and college students and volunteers. I did a lot of programming. I've worked in ministries big and small. But then I also have worked in sales and marketing. I have a graphic design background. I've worked for some companies doing freelance graphic design work, even product photography. So that's been part of my past. But then I also had started a few years ago an arts nonprofit here in Bend, Oregon called House Art, and that was very near and dear and a very important part of my journey because I was continuing to work with people, which has always been a part of my story, is connecting and helping people change and grow, and that was definitely a part of it. Poet House was a very significant experience and a very powerful experience for me. And then I've worked as a behavioral coach. That's most recently. I did that for a few years for a company, and then I have done that independently, as well as all of the other things that I'm sort of juggling right now at the same time. And that has been a lot of fun and an extremely growing experience because of where the students are at that I've been working with over the last few years.
Well, I know you bring a broad skill set to the project that you're currently embarking on, which is really exciting. I'm going to let Sean, you tell the people that are listening all about this. But before we even get to explain your project, tell me, how'd you get interested in filmmaking?
Well, I was kind of, interestingly enough, I was in between projects several years ago in the late 90s, and I decided to go do a little bit of acting when I was living over in the Willamette Valley, and got an agent and did a commercial and did a few other things and had a lot of fun doing it. But I was actually only doing that for about 6 months, and I've been kind of led towards that, to do that, because I'd always found that sort of thing to be really, really enjoyable. I had done some sketch comedy. I had been involved in plays all through high school and college. I had a forensics scholarship. That's the speech and drama side of forensics, not the criminal investigation side.
That's right, no CSI.
CSI. So I'd done that in college and had a scholarship, and I always loved that sort of fun experience that went along with that. And a huge piece of everything that I've done over the years has been storytelling, and so acting and television and movies just seem to be a great avenue for that. And though I only did it in that particular place for a very short period of time, right after I sort of kind of went down to Southern California and started working, and didn't go pursue acting at all. All three of my brothers ended up working on a film together. Two brothers in production, and one brother as one of the principal actors.
Okay.
And my oldest brother, Kirk, ended up moving down to LA and continuing to work in the film industry. And my younger brother stayed up in the Pacific Northwest and has been an actor ever since, and done a number of independent films and television shows. And so it's been sort of circling my life, film and the film industry, and that avenue for telling a story. And so that's kind of where that whole thing has sort of grown from.
Great. Now, I should have told you that what Sean is doing, Sean is a documentary film maker. He lives in the Bend, Oregon area. So as you're listening to this and watching this, if you're in the Oregon area, you just may want to contact Sean. Even if you're not from Oregon, you're going to want to learn more about his project. So Sean, let's jump in. Tell us about what your documentary feature film is all about.
It's about people who have done the impossible. People have pushed through the adversity that sometimes happens in, well, sometimes, all the times happens in life. You know, I call it the 3 Ds: dissatisfaction, distraction, and dysfunction. And those seem to be a part of the human condition. And as I've worked with young people and adults through the years, I have seen people get stuck and stay stuck in these places where they have, you know, it's a bad job or a bad relationship or a bad family situation, and they can't seem to move out of it. And sometimes they just settle in and say that's their lot in life. And that is really, it's always been really a sad thing to see people, you know, especially when they have an idea or a plan or they dream to get out of it or move past that, but they give up because they, well, look at me, I haven't done this, or I haven't done that, or I don't have the education, or I don't have the intellect, or I don't have the physical ability, that's just out of my reach. But there are people who have pushed through those 3 Ds, and they have accomplished the impossible. And so that's what this story is going to be about. I was recently working with a number of students teaching a seminar, because that's one of the other things that I do, and I was teaching a seminar and with a bunch of college students these college students are kids who have really been challenged and have struggled in life to move forward academically. And some of them have, you know, completely blown themselves up, not in a good way, in a bad way.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about emotion and how emotional regulation in the brain and how that affects a person's ability to move forward. And one of the things I revealed to them was that I was going to take on a challenge for myself for this year, because I felt like it's important for me to see myself grow, and I wanted to pick something that I had never done before, and it would be impossible for me, so to speak, to do. And so we made a list, the students and I, and this is actually in the film, going to be in the film. We made a list of all the things, a bunch of things that I had never done before. I mean, one of them was making a souffle. Pretty sure I could probably get that in 6 months. Another thing, and that's the other thing, is there's a time limit. I have to be able to accomplish in 6 months. You know, there was running a marathon. There was getting some high belt or middle belt actually, in karate. There was a number of things that would be pretty challenging. And one of the things on the list was pretty much an impossible thing, or what most people would say impossible. Pretty much everybody in the classroom said, oh no, that shouldn't be on the list because that's not something that you could do. And so we picked one of the things on the list, and everyone was like, yeah, that you could probably do. And then I said, well, wait a second, isn't this about me taking on a task that is impossible? And they were like, oh yeah. And I said, well, I guess it should be this one, and which is, I have less than 6 months to dunk a basketball on a regulation size hoop. Now I'm 46 years old, I'm less than 6 feet tall, I have never dunked a basketball in my life. Well, I dunked a basketball on a 9-foot hoop when I was in the prime condition of my life.
Okay.
You know, when I was doing 3 days playing soccer. But it's not something that I was never able to do when I was younger. And so, and I'm squidgy, which is, for me, that means I'm skinny and kind of flabby at the same time.
Okay.
I'm not in good physical condition, and I haven't been for a long time. So in order for me to do this, there's a pretty big physical transformation that has to take place, in addition to the emotional and mental transformation that will have to take place.
Now, just to clarify, for those of you who are out there, maybe you've flipped through the channels, you've been watching your favorite basketball team. Some of you may not know that a regulation size basketball hoop, that's 10 feet tall. And Sean just being under 6 foot, you've got a pretty significant gap to make up. I would say at least about a 3 feet, which would put it somewhere near 36-inch vertical jump around there, 36 to 40, depending on how high your reach is.
Well, I can't palm a basketball, so I have to get well over the rim.
Okay. What I love about your story, Sean, is not only are you attempting the impossible, you are doing what every short white guy dreams of, and that's slam dunking a basketball. I'm not too tall myself. I'm 5'10", so I've never come close to dunking a basketball. So tell me, let's talk about the film a little bit. What are your plans, over the next 6 months as you are taking on your physical challenge of learning to slam dunk? I know that there's some other stories you want to follow.
Exactly, and that's kind of actually the real meat of the story. I mean, there's going to be this humorous element to me working through the challenge of increasing my vertical actually by 95%, because we've already done some tests, and I've got all these other physical tests that I've done that show just how out of shape I am, what zero really looks like. We have a website that will be going up in the next week or so that will show some of my specs. But the increasing my vertical by 95% is a fun story. But the reality is what I want to do is go out, and we're going to find, for my story, I want to be able to find and connect with people who have already accomplished the impossible. So there's a road element to the story where I go out and travel around the country and meet people while I'm in the midst of my own personal transformation. I'm going to be meeting people who have already accomplished the impossible, and people who have pushed through those 3Ds, the dissatisfaction, distraction, and dysfunction that so often happen in life. And there's so many stories. I mean, we can think of some of the more celebrated stories of people that you're like, wow, that person's really amazing. Look what they were able to accomplish. And so maybe we'll see some of those, but we'll also see some people that are more basically unknowns, and whose story will hopefully inspire and challenge people to look at themselves and say, wait a second, maybe I am halfway through life, but it doesn't mean I can't accomplish my dream. I can't change my direction. I can't move and accomplish what everyone else has always said can't be done.
That's right.
And so hopefully inspiring people as they look at these 6 or 7 incredible, amazing stories, go, wow, that's me. That's where I'm at. I'm that person. I could make that change. And then, and if they can see those stories and hear those people talk about their challenges and what they faced, I think that will be really beautiful when they're able to say, okay, wait a second, I can change.
So tell me the name of your project and what is the web address? How can people contact you once they hear more about it?
Learning to Dunk and Other Impossible Adventures is the name of the film. The website will be up in probably 2 to 3 days. The web address, hopefully we will have this secured, so don't quote me on it, but it's L2D, the number 2, .impossible.com. And again, we have the website built, we just haven't launched it yet, and we still need to secure the name. So if you'll be able to find a link from the Grove's website. When we launch the website, we will also be launching social media at the same time. So obviously, Joey, I'll let you know that so that you'll be able to make sure that people can find it and hear more about the project. We're gonna meet more than just those 6 or 7 stories when we're out there on the road. We're gonna meet a lot more than that. And so we're also, when the film debuts, and we're gonna be hitting as many of the film festivals and all of that as we can this next year. We want to be able to, we're going to launch a YouTube channel at the same time that the film debuts, so that people can see all the other stories. And there'll be like a sizzle reel and trailers that are going to come out over the next several months, so that people can see, oh, it's coming, this is the story, this is the progression, because we want people to get excited about this project.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Well, we need to wrap up here in a minute, Sean. It's been really fun speaking with you. Tell me, what's the budget you're looking to raise?
Our budget is a little over $186,000, so $187,000. It's a pretty significant amount of money. We're looking to do that in 3 chunks of about 65,000 each chunk, because they're kind of broken down into separate deals. One of them is to get crew on board and training and all the things that we need to do to get started. And then the second chunk of money goes towards travel and paying the crew time on the road. And then third chunk of money is for legal, editing, music, and distribution.
Great.
And so that's where those will go. That is a huge challenge, and I just wanted to mention that is a significant challenge. But I think one of the things that, as people are looking at this project and they're thinking about it, that is this project is almost in and of itself an impossibility. Mm-hmm. In that I'm doing a feature-length documentary, and I've never done anything like that before. But I've got a great group of people that are coming on board and joining us, and every day I'm surprised. But at the same time that I'm surprised and excited, and this is part of the story, is my own personal self-doubt and my own personal dissatisfaction, distraction, and dysfunction that is a part of it every single day that I work on this project, and as I think about it, and as I deal with the fear of both success and failure, which is funny because those are the things that I work with students on, either success or failure.
Well, Sean, I got to hand it to you. You are walking into the flames, and you are going for it. And as we talked about before we went on the air here, if you weren't afraid, if you didn't have some doubts about this, you probably wouldn't be human. Because when anytime you take on something ambitious, something that's going to get you out of your comfort zones, those fears, those doubts, they're really normal. But that's part of the fuel that drives us forward. So for those of you listening, I really want to encourage you to participate in this project. If you love impossible stories, if you love narratives of people really overcoming difficult obstacles to achieve the impossible, I want to really encourage you to invest in learning to dunk into Sean's project. Whether you're making a donation of $5, $15, $25, maybe you can fund $1,000, $10,000 into it. We really want to see this project get funded. We believe in it. It's going to hit many festivals. It's going to be the Super Size Me of the basketball world, impossible, but a lot of other very inspiring stories. So Sean, I want to thank you for being online with me today. We're looking forward to great things in days ahead, and I have complete confidence that you're going to reach your dream, and a lot of lives are going to be touched because of it. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Joey. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me be here.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.